Welcome to the August 15th, 2018 legislative session of the Town Board. I'll officially call this meeting to order. I'll ask that everyone please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Cole.
Here.
LaFountain.
Here.
Metzler.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Quinn.
Here. Thank you very much. I'll let the record reflect that Mr. Horowitz is absent. Our town attorney is absent. However, prior to this meeting, we spoke about the public hearing that is coming up, and he has indicated that this is properly before the board. And with that, I'll ask our clerk to please read the legal for our public hearing this evening.
To allow a law office and apartment at 1771 Penfield Road. The legal notice was published in the Penfield Post on July 26, 2018, and posted on the town's website and town clerk bulletin board. 15 postcards were mailed.
Good evening.
Good evening. And before you get started, I know you're anxious, ready to get out of the gate.
Yes.
Again, I'll just indicate that Mr. Horowitz did indicate, working with myself and the town clerk, everything has been properly advertised, and this is properly before the board. So with that, Mr. Pitnero, the floor is yours. If you give us your name and address, and then speak a little bit about your proposal.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, board members, Mr. LaFountain, members of the board. My name is Ted Pitnero. I'm the property owner of 1771 Penfield Road. And I'm representing this evening the tenant at this point, okay, who is Ms. Miller, and her son, Mr. Mark Lewis, who is the attorney that will be occupying the premises. The proposed law offices will be in operation Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 p.m. There will be 2 people working, a paralegal and the attorney. This satellite will be a satellite office for the attorney, Mr. Mark Lewis. He will be there to meet clients on an assisted and needed basis. Since this is a new office location, we do not have an idea about how many clients there will be visiting the site per day. There are approximately 8 to 10 parking spots. Sincerely, Sheila Miller Lewis.
Okay.
Any questions?
So, yes, so a couple of questions I'm sure the board will have. I'll start. I know we discussed this at a couple of different work sessions, and you worked with Mr. Costello.
Yes.
And Mr. Tate and Mr. Valentine and their team to work on a driveway location.
Yes, that's correct.
You came to an agreement that would be the best location, so it was an alternate means of access off of Penfield Road for the safety of those folks that were visiting the site.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
So
Yes.
you're comfortable with how that came together and what that looks like?
Oh, yes, and I do thank the board for reconsidering and so forth. I appreciate that. And I think, in all fairness, I think it'll work out much more convenient for the tenants and the clients, whomever there may be at that point.
Very
They
good.
could exit and entrance that location.
Excellent.
Yes, I think it's very good. Good choice.
Good. Well,
And
I
of
think
course,
it's...
obviously, it'll be less costly.
Yeah, there you go. And our sensitivity is cost and safety, so I'm glad that worked out.
Yes, thank you.
Could you speak a little bit about signage that might be planned for the site?
Yeah, that's a good question. In my mind, I've been going through it. I think there'll be an entrance sign on Mott's Lane, okay? An entrance, and I'm going to put an entrance and exit sign on Mott's Lane, the corner of Mott's Lane. I mean, where my driveway would enter Mott's Lane is where I would be putting the 2 signs. So therefore, people can come in and go out at that point. As far as going out on the 441, there might be just an arrow going, an exit arrow and an entrance arrow as well at that location. So people can come in and go out that way if they wish. So there'll be 2 possible entrances and 2 possible exits. One to the rear of the property and one to the front of the property.
So
Depending on the time of day, of course, when traffic is so, as you well know.
will that be permanent signage, meaning not having any business name on it? You're just talking entrance, exit, and some arrows?
Yes,
Now,
yes.
will Mr. Lewis have a separate sign of his own?
Yes, right now they're in the works now of having a sign made which was given, the requirements were given to us by Mr. Costello in terms of size and appropriate location and so forth.
Okay.
So that's been in the works right now, but we're waiting for the approval here so she can go ahead and get that sign done up.
Okay. And so I would just encourage that Mr. Costello, and I'll thank Mr. Costello for providing that information. So you'll need to stay within that size. Anything larger than that would require a review by this board. And I will say that we tend to want to make sure we stay within code requirements.
Yes, it's understood.
Okay,
Yes.
very good. Very
Thank you.
good. All right. Will there be any weekend hours that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, no, no, sir.
Okay. Board questions or comments for Mr. Pitnaro?
The application's also for an apartment, so
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
the apartment upstairs.
There's an
that's part of
apartment
the-
upstairs which Mrs. Miller is living in, and downstairs on the rear entrance, there's another section or a room which will be used by Mr. Lewis, the attorney.
So the attorney will take the entire downstairs, and the apartment will be entire
Yeah,
separate?
downstairs will be used by the tenant as well, okay?
Okay.
And where a quick kitchen is and so forth.
Okay.
And of course, sleeping upstairs, there's bedrooms upstairs.
Right.
And then the front, there's a door between the offices and the kitchen, so that he will have his privacy when clients do come in. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right. I think it'd be appropriate to mention for the record and compliment you on the work that you have done on that property, the stonework in the front, the siding, and everything. That piece of property, I know when you acquired it, was in very used state, and
Right.
you've done a very nice job of really
Right.
bringing that back to life and making that a showpiece in that area. So
I
thank you.
appreciate-
Thank
I
you for
appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Been a lot of hard work. And I would like to introduce my wife, Carol, who's also a part of it as well, okay?
Right. So now we know
give
where,
credit
you're
to.
getting all your good ideas.
She's my left and right arm.
There you go. All right, very good. All right, board, other questions or comments for the applicant?
I have
Okay,
none. We've
yep.
certainly vetted this quite a bit over the work sessions. I appreciate you being willing to accept some of the staff recommendations, as you mentioned earlier, it turned out to be a better outcome as far as a plan.
Yes,
at the
yes,
end of the
it'll
day.
work out very nicely, I'm sure. I would like to make a comment, I'd like to thank Mr. Costello for all the work he's done and the assistance he's given to me. So, he's a great person and very informative.
That's what our team does, so thank you for acknowledging that. All right, sit tight for just a minute, because at this point, I'm going to open it up to the public to see if there's anyone that would like to speak for or against on this particular item. And so with that, I'd ask our clerk, did anyone sign up to speak on behalf of this item?
I believe, is this for, okay.
Okay, so, all right.
no one.
And so if you didn't sign up to speak, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this matter? And again, this matter is 1771 Penfield Road. This is for a law office with apartment on the second floor. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of this particular item? Okay, seeing none. I'd ask the applicant, any additional input that you would like to provide the board that you feel is pertinent to the application that we haven't already heard?
No, not at this point, no.
Okay. All right.
And I do appreciate the board for their recommendations and so forth on the driveway and so forth.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And I'll ask Mr. Costello, our Development Services Director. Mr. Costello, is there anything that you believe should be added to the record that we have not spoken about this evening?
Yes, Jim Costello, Town of Penfield. Just two comments. Number one, Ted didn't mention it, but the paralegal who will be working for Mr. Lewis is actually Mrs. Miller, his mom. So she's living on the site and working there as well.
Okay.
I have spoke to Mrs. Miller, and she's fully aware of what she needs to do for the signage requirements. She is having a sign package prepared for the board's review, and you'll get a chance to review that as soon as she has it submitted to her.
Excellent.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you. And then I'll ask the board, any last questions, comments for the applicant? No. Okay. This will bring the public hearing to a close. The next time this board will have an opportunity to discuss this will be next Wednesday. We'll do that right here in this room, on the back of the room at our work session. That will be on Wednesday, the 22nd of August. The board will take all the materials that you submitted, the testimony that you gave this evening, and we will make a decision on this particular matter. You're welcome to attend. All our meetings are open to the public. You can watch it on Penfield TV, or the following day you can call Mr. Costello and get the results, whatever you'd like to do.
Okay.
So our meetings are at 7 p.m., and that'll be next Wednesday, the 22nd.
Very good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Board.
I'll declare this public hearing closed. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you.
Have a great evening. Thank you for coming in.
Right, you're welcome.
This will take us to communications and announcements, and I'd like to first recognize Mr. Quinn, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone. Just a reminder, the American Red Cross will be holding a blood drive Wednesday, August 29th at the Penfield Community Center from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Each presenting donor will receive a $5 Amazon gift card. To schedule a donation appointment to help save a life during an emergency, please contact 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org. Walk-ins are also welcome. Thank you.
Great. Mrs. Messler.
I have one announcement this evening. On Saturday, September 15th, from 7:45 a.m. to 1 p.m., the towns of Penfield and Webster are again partnering with Monroe County Executive Cheryl Donalfo to host a household hazardous waste drop-off. This year's event will be held at the Penfield Highway Garage at 1607 Jackson Road. This is an appointment service only, and you can make your appointment easily at monroecounty.gov/HHW or just by calling Penfield DPW at 340-8710 before Friday, September 14th at 3 p.m. That's all I have for this evening.
Great, thank you. And just a reminder to all of the residents, the town hall and library will be closed on September 3rd in observance of Labor Day. So that is Monday, September 3rd. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The Penfield Recreation 2018 Fall Brochure is now available at penfieldrec.org. Be sure to check out all the programs that will be offered over the next few months, with registration beginning September 5th for Penfield residents. Early registration is available for programs of high community interest, so don't miss out and go to penfieldrec.org soon to sign up. Also, the last amphitheater event for the season will conclude with our annual Taste in the Blues event held on Saturday, September 15th in Veterans Memorial Park. This event will be held from noon to 4 p.m. and includes our free chili judging contest, Genesee Brew House beer samplings, and music performance on the Kiwanis stage by Steve Grills and the Roadmasters. For additional details for this annual fall event, please go to penfieldrec.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Cole.
I only have one announcement. My next community chat in September will be September 18th from 5:30 to 7 in the new book area at the library.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to public participation, and I will recognize our town clerk to identify anyone that has signed up, please.
Okay, Christina and Braden Emeren.
Christina, welcome. And who's this young man you have with you?
This is Braden.
Great, great. So Braden, what I'd like to do is if we could pull one of those chairs over and turn the back towards us, but then you could kneel on the chair, and that would still be safe for you, and we would be able to see you.
So I'm
Very
Christina,
good.
and this is Braden. Thank you for having us. And we let him stay up a little bit later past his bedtime tonight because he wanted to see how our town government works. And he also had something to say.
Great.
So I'll start off. We wanted to get an update on the pesticide plan and hear from the town board on what will be going on.
Okay. So what I can tell you from when we met, now it's been several months, 3 or 4 months, I think, I don't have the exact date right off the top of my head. I know that we worked with our parks and DPW folks, Eric Tate and Tim Masterton, and we have, as we had indicated, we have, significantly cut back in everything we've done other than some spot treatments that we've been doing for some of the things like bees. I know that I just signed a voucher for some wasp and bee killer. We've had a number of ground bees at the baseball field due to the dryness this year, dry conditions, and then over at Harris Whalen Park in the wall where our young football players are playing. So we've been doing that. And then we've,
Sure, I had a quick question. And are there signs posted when you do spot treat, specifically talking about the bees?
so I believe that they're there initially when we do that. We put them up. So what I'll say so that we're not misleading anyone. So if we find a bee's nest at 3 o'clock today and we have a game there at 6 o'clock, we may have the sign up at that time until such time as game time. We'll make both teams, coaches and everything aware of that, that the bees have been taken care of. But that sign will not stay up, especially if it's in the playing field.
And in terms of it's not in the playing field, or, so Braden takes, he took the tennis lessons, the town offers in
Okay.
the rec booklet. And I know they did spray for bees, but I did not see a sign
Okay.
where they sprayed for it, so I just wanted to inquire a little bit more about that.
So, when they sprayed, I mean, did they spray the same time that he was there playing?
Well, the coach actually had some, but I think they did it after.
Okay.
So we weren't there for that one. I think it was by the door, going into the tennis
Okay.
court. But we didn't see a sign, which I thought would be helpful, so that people are on the net. Okay, on the net as well. They sprayed, but it would be helpful so people would know, where it was spraying. They could just avoid that area, because kids will sit down there, eat snacks,
Sure.
things like that. So, definitely, I see the need for spot treating in those areas, but maybe a sign so that people can avoid that
Okay.
section if they do not want to, have their kids be exposed to those
Sure,
chemicals.
understand. So I'll speak with Mr. Masterton and Mr. Tate, for that. It's obviously, it's a little bit different at the ball fields because we can, again, make the coaches and the teams aware. It's a matter of when we find out that we have them. When we try to sort that out as we're grooming and striping fields, we typically do that in the morning prior to the games in the afternoon. So, okay. All right.
And what is the long-term plan for pesticide usage for the town?
So I think, as we mentioned when we were together, the town would continue to take a look. We have been investigating utilizing organic products so that we didn't have to use maybe some other things that might be more harmful. And I know that, Tim and Eric have been working on that. I know that they've been in contact with Judy as well. And that's the best update that I can give you at this point.
Okay, and do you know when we'll be able, as a community, to know what the long-term plan would be for pesticide usage by Penfield?
I'm sure what we can do is, once we've sorted through all that, we can put that information on our website.
Any time frame?
At this point, I do not have a time frame for you. I would say that we would probably be able to do something by the end of the summer, early fall.
Okay, and just for clarity's sake, so I know when we talked before at one of the town board meetings, you said that there's no plan for pesticide usage other than spot treatment. Is that still, has that been the
That's been
plan?
still our
So you have
goal.
not
Like I say,
used
we've
pesticides
explored.
other than spot
We have
treatment?
we have looked at using some organic materials in some areas if we had some concerns about different things like poison ivy, poison oak, or some things like that. So I can't tell you exact locations right this moment, but I can get that information.
And then when you are, so it sounds like there are times other than spot treatments that the town has used pesticides in this past?
Where if there's been any type of hazards, correct.
Okay, and then, do you know, has that been labeled?
They have been.
Okay. And then I guess I have another thing to mention, but this is related to the signage, and this is what Braden, my son, wanted to talk about. So I'm going to
Okay.
hand over the mic to
So,
him.
yeah, so wheel that mic right down. Be careful that, yeah, there you go. Wheel that right down. And so you're on TV and you're on the mic, so go right ahead.
So, they have the dogs and kids on the pesticide sign, then that means they know that it's bad for kids and dogs. Then why are you spraying it around them?
I didn't catch just that last piece.
So he wants to know if the signs indicate that pesticides, are bad for kids or people and dogs, and those little yellow signs.
Signs that they put up.
Then why are we using them around dogs and kids?
We do use those when we're applying anything. That's part of the law to do that. And it's an awareness. It's to let folks know, whether it be children or adults, that something may have been applied at that location, and if someone's concerned, to avoid that area.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Which I thought that was, he said that, to me in the car randomly. I thought that was really a simplistic but really good point, that if we know as a town, as a community, as a people, that, pesticides are detrimental to our community, to those most vulnerable, like children, pregnant women, pets, there are alternative solutions, and this kind of segues into what I wanted to talk about was, we know that New York State bans the use of pesticides on school grounds, school property. So it seems like there is a model, that we could readily use for our, other places. The same kids are playing, at school who are playing in the fields. It's the same people, so we could use that same model to our town.
Don't disagree. I mean, we have, I think, when we met, we demonstrated that year after year, we were reducing the amount that we were using across the board. I would say that the school district and the town isn't your biggest worry. Your biggest worry is your next door neighbors.
Right, yes.
I mean, at the end of the day,
I'd love to have a law
because
on that too.
they go through, and folks always assume more is better. So if you need a certain amount per square foot, or for a 5,000 square foot area, unfortunately, a lot of folks believe more is better. It'll make it greener, less weedy, whatever the case is. And I think that you'll find most commercial entities, schools, commercial entities, towns, things like that, that they have done a good job of looking to reduce or not use at all, or use alternative types of treatments. And I think the real big education still needs to be, with the homeowners.
Yeah, no, I completely agree about the homeowner usage. But I think, like, as a town, there is potential for us to do better. We know that certain towns, Brighton, even smaller villages like Scottsville, those areas are not using pesticides. So, there is some kind of model for us to use. And also, the schools, they must have some kind of system in place. We are connected with our school systems on what they're using to, deter whatever the certain pests or bees or things like that. I think that would be a great resource for us as a town.
Okay.
And I think that is all we have. Do you want to say anything else, Brandon? Thank you so much. Thank you for listening
Absolutely.
to me. And
Thank
for
you.
Brayden.
And this is a big night, staying up a little bit longer
Yes, he's very
than curfew.
excited.
Very exciting. That's great. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
All right, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Is there anyone else that has signed up?
No.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on any matter? Yes, you first, and then, nope. This young lady, hand first, and then yourself. So.
My name is Miriam Blonda. I'm married to Richard Holtzberg. You're probably more familiar with me as Marion Holtzberg.
Mary, could you spell your last
Mary.
name?
Yes, it's B-L-A-N-D-A.
And your width?
Pardon me?
And your width?
My husband is Richard Holtzberg.
Okay.
So sometimes my name is confused with Holtzberg. I too have ground bees, but that is not why I'm here tonight. I didn't realize I'd have an opportunity to speak or to ask questions. I've been kind of communicating through email with most of the board members and parties concerned. But I do have
Marianne,
some...
could you pull that mic right up? Because I'm going to get tapped by the boys downstairs that are going to say that they can't hear you.
Okay.
And we tape everything so that folks at home that are watching have the ability to see and hear what's going on during these deliberations. So thank
Okay.
you for that.
Is this okay?
Speak right
Is this
speak right
better?
into that
Okay.
microphone.
As a
I
teacher,
so
I should know that, I
apologize,
think.
But we need your address as well.
Yes, of course. It's 2586 Browncroft Boulevard.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so
Okay,
the
great.
floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I'm wondering, will residents be able to provide any kind of input at future meetings? I think most of us in the neighborhood that have been discussing this didn't realize we would be able to speak tonight. So I don't know if Joan here is prepared. I think other members of the community would have come. So is there,
So let's-
before this is passed, the,
Let's take a step back. So
Mary.
that, for those out in TV land,
Sorry.
why don't we identify what the particular item is, and then let's move on from there.
Sure, of course, I'm sorry, I forgot
Sure
about
thing,
that.
not a problem.
Okay, the property located at 2567 Browncroft Boulevard
Okay.
has recently received landmark status, I understand,
Mm-hmm.
and originally was hoping to put in 12 units, apparently one-bedroom units, possibly furnished, and also an apartment, and that was not received, that was not accepted, is that correct?
That is
And so
correct.
she was to go back and come up with another plan. I believe it was approved, looking back historically, what it had been zoned in the past as a three-family
Correct.
house. Okay. Before her plans are approved, will there be a public meeting where we'll have an opportunity to ask questions?
So now's the time to do it.
Just now?
Because it is on the agenda. So there was a public hearing, so let's just go back and talk a little bit about the sequence. So there was a public hearing on the application back in June.
June 6th, right.
The board then took a number of weeks based on the information that was provided. They wanted to study it. We held several work session discussions. Those discussions are between staff, and the applicant. It is on the agenda for this evening. So now is the time, if you have any questions or comments, certainly those are items that the board would be interested in hearing, especially if there's anything more or different above and beyond your email that you submitted to the board.
Okay. It might not be relevant, it's kind of relevant to me.
Sure.
I'm just wondering how whatever is approved will be monitored. I'll just go through my concerns. Maybe you want
Absolutely.
to address them all at once.
Sure.
How will it be monitored? Will the fire marshal be making regular checks before, during, and after construction? I'm wondering what the applicant's definition of a three-family or multiple family dwelling is. I know she does a bit of wordsmithing at other meetings I've been at. Sort of an example would be when she talks about a family, a kitchen makes a family, and so there'll be kitchens, and that was similar to the original meetings when she wanted 12 individual bedrooms. Also, the applicant said that the historic board, I'm not sure the official name, historical board,
Historic Preservation Board.
Preservation Board, thank you, encouraged her to rebuild the White House, she called it, some kind of a, I don't want to say shack, an edifice that's next to the house. She didn't say as what. Originally, it was an outhouse. Did they want her to rebuild an outhouse? Did a rebuild as a studio apartment, which she was hoping to rent? Because somebody lived in it at one time, back in the 1800s, people did all kinds of things that we would never do today for health and sanitary concerns. So that's definitely a concern. A lot of the applicant's language seems very vague and ambiguous, and I often am listening at the meeting or watching the tape, and I don't really see a clear answer, even as far as how many units, like at the final meeting, how many units would she want to be or would be acceptable to her. My real major concern is, and maybe there's no legal standing, I'm not sure, but if it becomes 3 families, 3 units, will the applicant be allowed to rent out individual bedrooms in each unit? Because that's sort of originally what her plan was.
Her plan originally at the public hearing was that she had identified 12 areas that might be 1 or 2 rooms where there might be a kitchenette. So when I say a kitchenette, it might be a microwave, something like that. They'd have, in some cases, access to their own personal bathroom, or there may be a shared bathroom. And the home itself will be broken up into 12 different units, what I'll call leasable or rentable units. And this board had concerns about that, and the discussion that we had at the work session is that she would be allowed 3 apartments. And it would be very specifically, for a family unit, not an apartment where 4 or 5 individuals would come in, have their own rooms, things like that. And I know this board has been looking and working with our town attorney on some wordsmithing of that resolution. In fact, I don't want to go down the road too far this evening, but I think that the board may in fact elect to table this matter tonight to do some additional wordsmithing of that resolution. Again, we've already held the public hearing. We certainly will take any and all comments that folks offer up. But the board did at the work session agree to move forward with a 3-apartment unit within that facility, encompassing the entire facility.
So a 3-apartment unit is a 3-family unit? It's just a different term?
That is correct.
Okay, and a family is defined as people that are related to each other, living together?
Typically, it's related together, living together. There is a specific definition, in our code, but it isn't intended to have 3 or 4 or 5 non-related to turn it into a flop house, so to speak.
Right, which is similar to the original.
And I think that while the board prepared Mr. Costello, we asked Mr. Costello to prepare a draft resolution, and while the board had an opportunity to go through and make comments, I think the board has felt here over the last few days that they would like to further wordsmith that. So I think you will find this evening that the matter will be tabled to the next legislative session.
Okay, that's encouraging. I think that is it for now. As I said, I didn't realize we'd be able to speak. I was out of the country when you had the original meeting in June. And so I've been, just as I said earlier, trying to communicate via email and other information. You know that many of my concerns are based on her current residence, which is right next door, and what I have gotten firsthand information from a tenant about how it's being run. When I contacted the fire marshal, all they said, as a follow-up, all they said was, yes, it's approved as to have 2 apartments, and that was not the primary concern. It was the rooms that are being rented out separately. So I don't know where that stands right now. I don't know if I even have the right to know, or if this is something, that I reported, and then it's a matter of, between you and the owner.
So there's really 2 matters going on. There's the matter of the Forrester house that is being discussed tonight, and then of her personal residence. So those are two different
Yes.
separate and distinct, and the town is working on both of those.
Okay. I only bring it up because it sort of goes to the character or the feeling of it.
Okay.
And how it's monitored.
All right.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
everybody.
Thank you.
And just
everything.
for the future, at any legislative session, anyone can come in and talk about any subject that
Okay.
they wish. So we have public participation at 2 opportunities every time we're up here.
Okay, and I didn't realize that
So
you
even
would
if
even be
if
up
something's not
here.
on the agenda, you can still come in
Okay,
and talk about it.
at legislative
Yeah.
sessions.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
the work sessions, the 2nd and the 4th Wednesdays of the month, that's for discussion with staff and, if need be, with applicants or individuals that have requested some specific time to the board. The legislative session, the 1st and 3rd, anyone can come in and speak about any item.
Okay, great, great. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Mary Ann. Thank you. Joan?
I'm Joan Stage from 39 Farmbrook Drive. I guess my real concern is what I've already stated in the letter of August 11th, in that she was quoted, I quote this,
A kitchen creates a family, so I will have 3 full kitchens, and I will configure the rooms in ways that connect the people who live there to the kitchen at your request, which makes me really believe she's going to have kind of 3 units where she rents out the bedrooms and they share the kitchen and living space, and she'll end up having the 12 that she asked for. The other thing that I question...
And I think that's certainly a concern by the board as well.
Yeah. And the other thing is, there was a lot of talk about 3 garages in the back. And in the resolution, it says up to 6 garages. Will 6 garages fit there in the back? And then the concern is still there by that neighbor. If the garages are in the back, are the lights going to come directly into their house? And where I live, I have the 3-foot burn, but then a 6-foot setup fence on top of it. And I
Sure.
really think that something like that needs to be between the back of that property and the Rossbrook neighbors.
Certainly, we can take a look at that. I will say that the Rossbrook neighbor did take the existing fence down.
Because it was not in good condition, I believe, was the
Well,
reason for it.
Yeah, I don't know the reason why. I just, that she indicated that, that fence had been taken down.
Okay, now, if the resolution is tabled tonight, that's one situation. If it is passed tonight, where does it go from there? Does it go to back to the planning board?
So what would happen is that if it were passed, there are a number of conditions within the resolution. Those conditions would have to be met by the applicant. And then it would start the process of a building permit, to be issued, inspections made, certificate of occupancy would have to be issued for all of that. And that would be the next steps if in fact the resolution were approved, if and when the resolution is approved.
So what happens if you go through and inspect the property and it looks like there's 3 separate units, and then after it's all approved, she goes and puts locks on all the bedroom doors and makes them private for individual with shared space? What happens then? I guess.
Then we get into a situation from a code enforcement standpoint that we have to follow up with.
Okay. I mean, I'm not so trusting of her seeing what she did with her own house. And the other thing that makes me concerned, I'm not too happy with what's going on at the Mary Carriola Center at this time, but that's another another topic.
That's another topic that the
Yeah.
board is currently addressing.
Okay.
And our staff and our town attorney is currently addressing.
Okay, that's good to hear.
So, yeah, absolutely. I think you'll hear more about that towards the end of this week.
Yeah, and maybe we need in our code a clearer definition of what an apartment is.
Well, I think the definition is pretty straightforward. I think the broader discussion is that a little bit more wording in some of our residential zoning about how some things are used, because what's becoming very popular are Airbnbs, and there are this whole situation has brought out a number of homes across the town where folks are just renting out rooms to everyone and anyone, and that is not permitted by the code. And so, as part of some of this discussion, our code enforcement are working on a number of those as well.
Okay.
And it's I think in some regards it might be a little bit of the sign of the times. Folks have a large house, a couple extra bedrooms, an easy way to make some money. But there's a process to do that, to come in before the town, have a hearing to make sure that folks in the neighborhood are aware and understand what it is that's being proposed.
Yeah, because you may remember on Rossbrook, a couple of years ago, we had a situation where there were boarders in there.
Yep.
And it took 2 years to get that resolved.
Right, yes, exactly.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right, thanks,
for
Joan.
coming.
Thanks for coming in. Anyone else? Ed Linskog. was concerned, Ed. You haven't spoken for a couple of meetings. I just wanted to make sure everything was okay.
They piqued my interest.
Okay.
Ed Linskog, 40 Willow Pond Way, and a member of Faith Lutheran Church, which is right across the street from this house.
That's right.
We are also concerned about what goes into the house because we do operate a full daycare there. So is there any condition where she has to go back to the planning board to get approval?
So I'm not going to give you an easy yes or an easy no.
Okay.
Depending upon the changes to the plan may necessitate going back to the planning board for some further review. And until we see those updated plans, I think right now I'm going to say maybe.
Okay, so you haven't seen the plans yet?
We have not, as of today, we have not seen the plans.
How about the garages? Do they require planning board approval?
The garages were part of the original discussion, but again, we're anxious to see what the new plan looks like and the change, and that, again, may warrant some further review by the planning board.
The church is very interested in you keeping them in the loop. There's been some discussion. They haven't been involved in any public meetings or that, but I presented them some of the information that she presented the first time.
Okay.
And I had an opportunity to talk to her last time.
Okay.
And also Mary Carriola, we're interested in what's going on there too.
We're very interested in what's going on in Mary Carriola. So
I'm sure you're taking good care of our neighborhood there.
I will say, stay tuned here over the next couple of days. There will be more information on Mary Carriola.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Anyone else that'd like to address the board on any matter? Okay, we'll move on to additions and deletions, and I'll recognize Councilman Moore, if I could, please.
Sure, Mr. Supervisor. Real quickly, if I can, let me just get my notes here. I'm sorry, thank you. I'd like to add to the agenda tonight items 166, entitled Setting a Public Hearing for a Conditional Use Permit to Allow a Personal Training Gym at 1844 Penfield Road, and Resolution 167, entitled Authorization to Accept and Certify the Standard Workday Report for Elected and Appointed Officials. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No,
delay.
not a problem.
I second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. They'll show up at the end of the agenda as items number 166 and 167. The next item is approval of the minutes. We have the July 18th, 2018 minutes before us and would entertain a motion of approval.
I move that the minutes of July 18th be approved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on those minutes? See no discussion. I'd ask for a roll call vote of those minutes.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Petitions. Has the board, town clerk, received any petitions since our last meeting?
No.
Okay, I have received one petition. I'll highlight this petition. I'll pass the original on to the clerk if I could, and the board will get copies of this. This is from Charlie and Jordan. They're residents of Huntington Meadow. They're also students at Bay Trail Middle School. They are asking that the town consider sidewalks in their neighborhood. They believe that the traffic in that area, even though there are speed humps, there's still a lot of cut-through traffic and excessive speeds. They're requesting that the board consider sidewalks in that area. Charlie and Jordan went through and they received signatures from 25 of the neighbors in that neighborhood. So the town clerk has the original copy. Copies will go to the board and to our engineering department for review and consideration of sidewalks in that area. Thank you to Charlie and Jordan for taking the time for that. We'll move on to resolutions by function, and we'll start with Law and Finance, please.
Authorization to attend the Association of Public Historians of New York State Conference.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the Association of Public Historians of New York State is holding their 2018 Fall Conference at the Doubletree Hotel in Henrietta, New York on October 1st through 3rd. Now therefore be resolved that Kathy Knauer, Town Historian, to attend the conference from October 1st through 3rd, registration and mileage not to exceed $200. The money will be allocated from the historian's departmental budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion?
No.
Seeing no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign a service agreement for electronic processing services.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town of Penfield has had a signed agreement with Value Payment Systems for web e-payment system services since 2012. Whereas VPS has informed the town that the electronic processing services for the current platform will no longer be maintained and will eventually be phased out. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Penfield hereby authorizes a supervisor to sign a service agreement with T-Tech Transaction Technologies, LLC, for the continuation of the electronic check processing services. Said agreement will be approved by the Penfield Town Attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. We'll let the record reflect that the fees remain current as they were in the original contract with VPS. Okay, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Budget transfer, PCTV contractual services to personal services.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas Cable TV Coordinator requests a transfer of funds from the contractual services to personnel services. Whereas the town board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to current income and expenditures. Now therefore be it resolved that the 2018 budget transfer be approved from PCTV conferences in the amount of $3,000 to production assistant part-time in the amount of $3,000.
Thank you. Discussion. See no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for town supervisor to sign an agreement to accept American Express credit card payments in the town clerk's office.
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to just make some amendments to the title and in the text of this resolution, if I can. I'd like the amendment to read a new title for this resolution to read Authorization for Town to Accept and Amend an Agreement for American Express Credit Card Payments in the Town Clerk's Office. That would be the title.
Okay.
And under the resolution, in the third paragraph where it reads, "Now therefore be it resolved that the agreement is amended to add American Express credit card payments." Deleted from that sentence would be supervisor is authorized to sign the amended service agreement.
Okay.
I'd like to propose that for town board consideration.
I second that amendment.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on those two changes? Okay, I'll ask for a roll call vote on the changes to the main resolution.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Moore, if you would do the main resolution.
Sure. Whereas the town of Penfield previously signed an agreement whereby the town agreed to provide residents with an option to pay general town fees via Visa, MasterCard, and Discover Card. Whereas the town has received requests to add American Express card to the credit card payment currently accepted. Now therefore be it resolved that the agreement is amended to add American Express credit card payments to the list of credit cards currently being accepted in the Penfield Town Clerk's office. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Further discussion? Okay, and so this vote will be on the main motion. Those in favor, or excuse me, roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization to attend the New York State Town Clerks Association Athenian Dialogue and Regional Education Seminar.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the New York State Town Clerks Association is dedicated to promoting the professional development of town clerks across the state. Whereas the New York State Town Clerks Association has scheduled an Athenian Leadership Dialogue and Regional Education Seminar in Canandaigua, New York. Now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk, Amy Steckloff, is hereby authorized to attend the New York State Clerks Association Athenian Dialogue and Regional Education Seminar in Canandaigua, New York on Saturday, September 15, 2018, and Monday, September 17, 2018, at a cost not to exceed $150. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Setting a public hearing to consider a conditional use permit to allow live music in the outdoor dining area at K2 Brewery located at 1221 Empire Boulevard.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board for the issuance of a conditional use permit pursuant to Chapter 250-5.9.b-1 of the code to allow for live music and outdoor dining at the K2 Brewery at 1221 Empire Boulevard. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Penfield shall hold a public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on September 5th, 2018 at 7 p.m. on said date to consider said application and to hear all persons interested in the question of this conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Approval of issuance of a special permit to allow 3 apartments and accessory garages at the Penfield Landmark at 2567 Browncroft Boulevard.
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Supervisor, I am recommending to this town board tonight that we go ahead and table this specific resolution, table it to the September 5th, 2018 meeting. After reading the resolution and hearing some residents at the public forum tonight, I do believe that some more work needs to be done on this resolution in consultation with the Penfield Town Attorney. So with that, I would like to recommend that we table this resolution until September 5th, 2018. Thank you.
Okay, and I'll recognize Councilwoman Cole, who seconded the motion. Are you willing to second for a tabling?
Yes, I will second.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to table this resolution. I'd ask, is there any further discussion on this matter this evening? Okay, seeing none, I would ask for a vote. And again, this is a tabling vote for this resolution for the property at 2567 Browncroft Boulevard.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, so this matter will be tabled. The next earliest opportunity that it'll come before the board will be at the September 5th legislative session. Okay, we'll move on to our next resolution, 161, please.
Authorization for the release of a pond inspection easement and property maintenance agreement at 1661-B 5 Mile Line Road.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the owners of the property at 1661-B 5 Mile Line Road have requested the town to release a pond inspection easement and a property maintenance agreement, as both documents were granted in conjunction with the previous approval of a daycare center and its drainage pond, neither of which were constructed. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Penfield hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign a release of easement to permit the release of the pond inspection easement and property management agreement at 1661-B 5 Mile Line Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign a contract with Labella Associates, CPC, for geotechnical and site design services.
Moved.
Second.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to sign a contract not to exceed $10,000 for services with Labella Associates to provide topographic surveys for both the box athletic field and the soccer fields, as well as geotechnical investigation and site design for the box athletic field at Rothfuss Park. This resolution, the proposal submitted by Labella Associates, shall constitute the contract. This agreement is to be reviewed and approved by the town attorney. Be it further resolved, as this agreement is to develop town parkland for recreational purposes, the board hereby authorizes the appropriation of $10,000 from the town's Recreation Trust Special Revenue Fund as an amendment to the 2018 budget.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Naming SRF Associates as a consultant for traffic analysis projects.
Moved.
Second.
Be it resolved that SRF Associates is named a traffic consultant for the town of Penfield, and be it further resolved that the supervisor is authorized to sign a contract with SRF Associates as outlined according to its billing rates, which are on file with the town clerk, effective as of April 1st, 2018, as a transportation consultant to the town of Penfield for the remainder of 2018 and 2019. The contract is to be reviewed and approved by the town attorney, and be it further resolved that the town board reserves the option to assign specific projects to internal staff and to other qualified transportation firms in addition to SRF Associates as necessary to represent the town. Such other qualified firms will be compensated for the business referred to them during 2018 and 2019 at an agreed-upon fee depending on the nature of the services performed.
Thank you. Discussion. See no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Naming of transportation consultant Barton and LaJudas, DPC, to the town of Penfield.
Moved.
Second.
Be it resolved that Barton and LaJudas is named a transportation consultant for the town of Penfield, and be it further resolved that the supervisor is authorized to sign a contract with Barton and LaJudas as outlined in its letter dated June 4th, 2018, on file with the town clerk, which includes a schedule of fees for various services provided by Barton and LaJudas as a transportation consultant to the town of Penfield for the remainder of 2018 and 2019. The contract is to be reviewed and approved by the town attorney. And be it further resolved that the town board reserves the option to assign specific projects to internal staff and to other qualified transportation firms in addition to Barton and LaJudas as necessary to represent the town. Such other qualified firms will be compensated for the business referred to them during 2018 and 2019 at an agreed-upon fee depending on the nature of the services performed.
Thank you. Discussion. See no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign recreation contracts.
So moved.
Second.
This authorizes the town supervisor to sign 8 recreation contracts, and they're all dealing with the different recreation programs that are taking place in the fall.
Great, thank you. Further discussion. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
This takes us to old business. There is no old business to come before the board this evening. Brings us to new business, and I'll recognize our clerk for the two new business resolutions.
Setting a public hearing for a conditional use permit to allow a personal training gym at 1844 Penfield Road.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board for the issuance of a conditional use permit pursuant to 250.5-10-D17 of the code to allow a personal gym at 1844 Penfield Road in the Four Corners zoning district. Be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Penfield shall hold a public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on September 5th, 2018 at 7 p.m. on said date to consider the said application and to hear all persons interested in the question of the issuance of the conditional use permit to allow a personal training gym located at 1844 Penfield Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization to accept and certify the standard workday report for elected and appointed officials.
Moved.
Second.
Be it resolved that based on record of activities kept by elected and appointed officials for 3 months, their New York State retirement will be credited for service time worked as per attached form RS 2417-A. Be it further resolved, as required by New York State Local Employees Retirement System, that the standard workday and reporting resolution for elected and appointed officials, RS 2417-A, will be certified by the town clerk and made available to the public via town's website and posted on official signage board of the town for a minimum of 30 days, past this resolution being adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
This brings us to our next public participation session in the town. Is there anyone that would like to address the board on any matter? Mr. Lindskog, if you would, please, again.
Ed Lindskog, 40 Willowpond Way. Another neighborhood that I'm interested is where I live. Since we had an accident there a couple of months ago and one of our residents got severely injured, it's not back to the building yet. We've done some chatting and talked to the town engineer and to Mr. Costello about some improved lighting in the area, maybe some improved signage, a way to slow people down more, and the need for a road shoulder on Willowpond Way because there's no place for kids to ride bikes or people to walk. Everybody now walks in the middle of the road at all hours of the day and night. And with very little lighting in the area, they're hard to see. Just starting a discussion, there needs to be a meeting of the neighborhood somehow with Legacy. I've tried to promote it with Legacy, but nothing happened there so far. And the property of 25 Willowpond Way was posted with no trespassing signs by Watermark, and the town advised her that that was not appropriate, so she had to take them down. Now, 40 Willowpond Way, which is private property and where the building is, could be posted for no trespassing. So what the kids were used to doing was riding their bicycles over on Legacy property, and that made some of the residents nervous, so they complained to management, and that's the reason the posted signs went up. So there's many issues here to discuss yet, and then we got flooded again with the rain last night in the back, and that situation hasn't been addressed yet. Possibility that the town could assume the wooded area and put some macadam sidewalks or something to tie the different cul-de-sacs together, give the kids a place to ride their bikes there or something like that.
So it is private property, so Watermark could put the macadam in too as well, right?
They can do that too, yeah. If
Yeah.
somebody encourages, they're not spending any money at all out there.
Yeah, yeah. So, the thing that we have to be careful of is, we can't spend money on private property.
We know that.
And I'm not sure, at least at this time, this board would entertain accepting that property unless it were brought up to a certain standard. So
Okay.
if.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, and so I think we've indicated before, we're willing to participate in any dialogue or any discussion with the neighborhood, with Willow Pond, with Watermark, in and around that. But this board has to be careful about getting something, then spending many thousands or tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money to update a particular area. So we would be looking for Watermark to look at possibly making some of those improvements and be part of that conversation.
I'm just trying to get some discussions going with somebody.
Sure.
The town engineer indicated he couldn't put sidewalks on Willow Pond, but if he could put a 2-foot shoulder in give people a place so they didn't have to walk in the street proper on both sides of the road. The houses are close to the street. It may involve moving some mailboxes, but there's suggestions like that could help
Sure.
with what's going on with the neighborhood.
So we can, crank that in. I mean, we've got, as you, heard this evening, we've got a number of requests that come in for sidewalks and walkways across the town, so the board has to, take a look at those and identify where it makes the, the most and best sense in some priority order. So
Right.
we can crank that in as part of the overall discussion.
Well, Mark has already indicated he's looking at Sanders Farm Drive, which is, he could do sidewalks on that road, which would help. And
That is correct.
There's some areas along Willow Pond that would accept sidewalks, but most of the circle on Willow Pond Way is, you have to walk in the street or
Right.
ride your bike in the street or whatever to do in order to get around.
Get around. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Ed.
Yep.
Thank you. I did have one item that came in via the email. This is from a Mr. O'Brien on Redwood Drive. His question is, has the town of Penfield worked with Greenlight to bring their service to Penfield? Their low-cost, high-speed internet service would benefit many people. Thank you. I know that Greenlight is in Penfield at different locations on poles. Typically where there's poles and wires, that has been where they've been able to bring it in. A good portion of Penfield has underground, and at least at this time, I'm not aware that Greenlight is either capable or has the ability to be able to do that. I know of one subdivision, that's where a developer actually put in the conduit to have the Greenlight service put in. But we will continue to work with Greenlight and others about other alternatives for service, internet service in the town of Penfield. So thank you to Mr. O'Brien. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on any matter? Okay, seeing none, and being no further business before this board, the August 15th, 2018 Town Board Legislative Session stands adjourned at 8:09 p.m. Thank you to everyone that participated. Thank you to Penfield TV.